I, 23-year-old male, am living at home at the moment to save money until I can get a place of my own. But I don't expect this to happen for a few years at least. My younger brother, 21-year-old male, and I like to go to the gym near my sister's 26-year-old female apartment. When he goes and I don't, as I have my name on the lease and am the only one with a key fob to that apartment complex, he asks for my keys and fob. I've been letting him do this, no questions asked, for months. I've also been giving him money for takeout and other things, because nobody else trusts him to pay them back. I've been doing a lot, basically. One day, he enters my room and places it on my drawer. I don't touch it until midnight, and by then I realize the fob has been removed from the chain. So I asked him where it was, and he keeps telling me to look on my dresser since he put it there. It obviously wasn't on there. I try to explain that, but he keeps raising his voice, which prompts our mother, 49-year-old female, to come in. Asks me why we are yelling, but keeps interrupting me whenever I tell her what I was talking about. I bluntly tell her, my apartment fob is missing and I'm asking him where it is. She keeps telling me to be quiet and shut up, then slowly asks me, is your fob missing? And why do you think it's missing? I leave and try to fall asleep, and she decides to ask him if he has it. He says no. She goes, okay, and walks away. She comes into my room, starts looking through my room, and tells me maybe I dropped it or maybe I just didn't see it because he says he put it back. It's attached to one of those thick, difficult circular chains. It took me an hour to fit it in. Take it off when I realized it put it in wrong, then fit it in again. There's no way it could have dropped off unless someone deliberately took it off. But she keeps telling me to shut up when I explain that to her. The next morning, I'm going somewhere today, and I need the fob to get there. On an unrelated note, they are demanding I see to our sister, who is pregnant. So it goes from a want to a must. So I ask my brother about the fob again. He gives me the same excuse. Look on your drawer. And when I tell him it's not attached, he keeps repeating this and says, leave me alone? So I tell him, fine, keep lying to me, and walk away. This time, my dad, 52-year-old male, asks me why I'm bothering him, and I tell him. He tells me I'm the one who lost it because I went to the gym last. When I explain to him that I wasn't the last person to use my own fob, he goes to ask my brother. Same thing. He comes into my room, looks through my room, tells me he said it was on your drawer. Maybe you dropped it. I explain why that's impossible, and he keeps saying that it could have happened. Consider that maybe that happened. He basically threatens me, then has me look through the house for my own fob. Looks through my brother's room, our car, everything. I overheard him yelling at my brother all, why the hell would you do that? Why the hell would you take it off? Why is it in your room? Don't ever do that again. Then he comes to me and claims it was inside of my shorts in the washing machine. I just nod my head and try to forget this ever happened. Now for an update. They've been pressuring me to apologize for a week over this. I didn't think I should have. Based on what I heard with my own ears, I correctly assumed that he decided to steal and hide my fob from me. It wasn't enough that I give him money and my stuff without asking. He needed to disrespect me while he did it. On an unrelated note, this guy is incredibly loud at night. Up at 12 and 2 and 3 in the morning, talking on his phone or yelling or throwing basketballs on the roof or whatever he's doing in there. I hear so many excuses from everyone else, from he's snoring to it's not that loud. But I know it's nonsense because 1, he doesn't snore, and 2, once Dad got upset with him and told him to shut his mouth. And I heard not one peep out of his room for 5 days. So it's intentional. The first time I ever addressed him on this, excuses. Dad gets upset I'm bothering him at night. And now he's texting me every night going, shut up and I hear you and you're stomping, which I took seriously at first. Until I slept in a different room on the opposite end of the house for a few days. And he still kept texting me about it. Texting me when I'm dead asleep, waking me up out of my sleep claiming I'm loud. Even when I'm not physically present in the room, it's, you're stomping. So I texted him back to shut up with this nonsense or you're never touching my fob again. He decided to tell everyone I'm not letting him touch my fob. Void of context. They all get upset and then start pressuring me to apologize again. This morning I gave in and said I was sorry for wrongly assuming he took and hid my fob. I texted him first, and when I was able to talk in person, I did. I asked him if he checked his phone and told him the only reason I texted that was because he kept texting me at night about something I wasn't doing. He goes the same excuse and scoffs when I tell him I hear him as well, and that I apologize. I feel I made a mistake here, but be real. What does this sound like to you? How do I sound like to you? Please read in between the lines if you must, but I want blunt answers. How am I supposed to be dealing with this type of nonsense? How do I make sure I'm not treated this way in the future? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Time to get out. Why is your name on the lease of the apartment your sister is in? You need to make sure not to do that again. Get your own apartment and stay away from your brother. Hey, he will never grow up. You need to tell your dad that you know your brother had lost the fob. Don't share it again. He is not at all responsible. Comment 2. Pretty easy to put your foot down. Just say no. He wants your fob? No. Wants money? No. People take his side. They can give money or their fob or whatever. If they want him to have those things, they can give them to him. ETA. Buy a replacement case online. Then give him the non-working one and claim he broke it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So after that whole fob incident, things have only gotten worse. My brother has been acting even more entitled and disrespectful. A few days ago, I found out he's been using my credit card without my permission. I noticed some charges for things I didn't buy, like video games and expensive takeout. When I confronted him, he just shrugged and said he thought I wouldn't mind, since I always give him money anyway. I was furious and told him he had to pay me back, but he just laughed and walked away. I decided to tell my parents about it, hoping they would finally see how irresponsible and disrespectful he is. But instead of supporting me, they accused me of being too harsh on him. They said he's going through a tough time and I should be more understanding. I couldn't believe it. I'm the one who's been helping him out, and now I'm the bad guy for wanting my money back? On top of that, my brother's even spreading lies about me to our sister. He told her I've been stealing his stuff and that I'm the one causing all the problems at home. She believed him and called me to yell at me, saying I need to grow up and stop being so selfish. I tried to explain my side of the story, but she wouldn't listen. She's pregnant and stressed, so I didn't want to push it too much, but it really hurt to have her believe him over me. The worst part is my brother's behavior has started to affect my job. I work from home and he's constantly making noise and interrupting me during important meetings. I've tried talking to him about it, but he just ignores me or makes even more noise on purpose. My boss has noticed and warned me that if I don't get my act together, I could lose my job. I'm already struggling to save money to move out, and losing my job would be a disaster. I've been feeling so stressed and overwhelmed. I don't know how to deal with my brother's behavior or my parents' lack of support. I've tried talking to them, but they just don't seem to care. They keep telling me to be patient and understanding, but I feel like I'm the only one making any effort. It's like they're all ganging up on me, and I don't know why. I've been thinking a lot about our family dynamics and how we got to this point. Growing up, my brother was always the golden child. He could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, and they always made excuses for his bad behavior. I, on the other hand, was expected to be responsible and take care of him. I guess that's why I've always felt like I had to help him out, even when it's been at my own expense. I remember one time when we were kids, my brother broke our dad's favorite vase. Instead of admitting it, he blamed me, and our parents believed him. I got grounded for a week, and he didn't even get a slap on the wrist. That's just one example, but it's been like that our whole lives. I've always been the one to take the fall for his mistakes, and I'm starting to realize how much that's affected me. I've also been thinking about my own role in all of this. I've always been a people pleaser, and I hate conflict. I guess that's why I've let my brother walk all over me for so long. I've always wanted to keep the peace and make everyone happy, but it's come at a huge cost to my own well-being. I'm starting to see that I need to stand up for myself more and set boundaries. But it's so hard when my family doesn't support me. I've been trying to find ways to cope with all of this stress. I've started going to the gym more often, even when my brother doesn't go, just to get some time away from the house. It helps a little, but it's not enough. I've also been talking to some friends about what's been going on, and they've been really supportive. They've given me some good advice and helped me see that I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. But even with their support, I still feel so alone in all of this. My family is supposed to be the people I can rely on, but right now, they're the ones causing me the most pain. I don't know how to make them see what's really going on or how to get them to take my side for once. It feels like I'm fighting a losing battle, and I'm not sure how much more I can take. I've been thinking about moving out sooner than I planned, even if it means dipping into my savings. I know it's not the most financially responsible decision, but I don't see any other way to get some peace and distance from my brother. I've started looking at apartments, but it's tough to find something affordable on my own. I'm hoping that maybe one of my friends will be willing to be a roommate, but I haven't asked anyone yet. I'm also considering talking to a therapist. I think it might help to have someone to talk to who can give me some professional advice on how to deal with my family and my own feelings. I've never been to therapy before, and I'm a little nervous about it, but I think it could be really beneficial. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. I'm trying to take things one day at a time and figure out the best way to move forward. Thanks for reading. Aita for letting my family treat my husband like an outsider and calling me a coward. My husband, 30-year-old male, and I, 33-year-old male, have been together for 5 years. He feels my family does not make enough of an effort with him, and I feel the same to a lesser extent. However, my family thinks they are trying, and that he also does not do much towards them, and that he lacks understanding. I get caught in the middle. My husband is from a different country, with a much warmer culture compared to the one I was raised in and where we currently live. There have been several instances where he felt my family did not show him enough respect or welcome. Personally, I agree with him on some of these instances, but not all. However, he believes I should always support him and let my family members know when they have done something wrong, according to him. I usually stress out about this situation because I feel like I'm in a double bind. I either have to chastise my family for something relatively minor or argue with my husband, stating that the issue is not as important as he thinks. And then he feels unsupported. I mostly go with the former option, but end up avoiding it for a while, which then angers my husband. How can I make him feel supported without constantly upsetting my family members over every situation that annoys my husband? Of course, I would always support him if somebody intentionally insults him, but the issues that arise are usually miscommunications, differences in expectations regarding family interactions, or cultural differences. I do not need everyone to have fantastic relationships, but I understand that my family, and sometimes myself, feel like we need to be very careful with what we say or do around my husband. When I try to discuss this with him, he believes I am being cowardly by not confronting these issues with my family. While this has been true at times, often the matter at hand is not worth starting a fight over. For example, in the most recent incident, my husband got upset with my parents for only sending a short text instead of a card for an important occasion. I understood his feelings, offered to call my parents about it, and he declined. However, a few days later, he exploded in anger and claimed that I should have called them anyway. Therefore, in the midst of a tense situation, I had to call my parents, which greatly upset them. I've been feeling extremely anxious ever since about how to navigate these family dynamics moving forward. How can I maintain relationships with my imperfect, as all families are, family members when they feel like my husband is constantly trying to find faults with them? Now for an update. I should have provided more examples of incidents between my husband and my family. In my opinion, the more serious things my family has done to him have made him more sensitive to the smaller issues, as he struggles with emotional regulation. I want to make it clear that it does not happen frequently, maybe a couple of times per year at most, and I do not consider it abuse on his part. He is not trying to isolate me from my family. He simply prefers to have very little to do with them himself. Other examples of how my family upsets my husband include my brother ignoring him or barely engaging with him. Although he is like this with everyone, and making ignorant comments about my husband's home country, I challenged these comments, but did not request an apology or anything of the sort. He was also upset that my sister did not attend our housewarming because she had a dinner planned with her friends. She wanted to come the next day, but he did not allow it, and I had to go along with that in order to maintain peace, which significantly damaged my relationship with my sister and mother for a while. The main issue with my father is that he essentially told my husband to move on from a significant trauma he experienced relating to a death in his family. I completely failed to address this with my father. So, while some of these issues could have been handled more flexibly by my husband, others were genuinely hurtful, and he did not receive enough support from me or apologies from my family in those situations. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My main experience with this sort of situation was when one of my early girlfriends always found something to feel slighted about every time she joined me at a family get-together. Afterwards, she would complain how nobody was warm enough for her either. Many years later, after I developed relationship experience and vocabulary to recognize emotional manipulation, I realized what it was, pressuring me to choose between her and my network of family and friends. From the vantage of hindsight, I saw that it wasn't just my family. She undermined all of my personal relationships with anyone who wasn't her friend first. Classic. If you really loved me, you would spend time with me, not them, sort of stuff. You don't have to support anyone when you think they're wrong. Definitely don't let overinflated complaints like, oh, they only sent a text instead of a greeting card, be what creates rifts between yourself and your family. If someone pressures you to take sides, it's usually best to go with the side that's not pressuring you to take sides. Comment 2. I'm just curious, how often does your husband get angry about things and make you feel like it's your job to manage his emotions? Is it only about your family? The language you use in your post and comments honestly makes me concerned that his goal here is to get you to cut off your family and isolate you. What does blow up at you mean exactly? What do you mean you had to call them in the middle of a tense situation? How often does your husband's words, actions make you anxious? In the situation with your sister and the housewarming, you say, I had to go along with that to keep the peace. What does that mean? What would have happened? You seem super focused on supporting him, making him feel supported. But what exactly is he doing to support you and help you not be so anxious? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this. So, 3 days ago, my husband and I had another blowout. This time, it was over my mom's birthday party. My husband felt slighted because my family didn't make a big deal about inviting him. They sent a group text, and he thought it was impersonal. I tried to explain that this is just how my family operates, but he wasn't having it. He said it felt like they were excluding him on purpose. I ended up calling my mom to smooth things over, but it only made things worse. She got defensive and said she didn't see the big deal, which made my husband even angrier. The fallout from this argument was pretty intense. My husband decided he wasn't going to attend the party at all. He said he was tired of feeling like an outsider and that he needed a break from my family. I went to the party alone, which was awkward. My family kept asking where he was, and I had to make excuses. It was clear they were hurt and confused, but I didn't want to get into it with them right then and there. When I got home, my husband and I had a long talk. He opened up about how he feels like he's always the one making compromises, and that I don't stand up for him enough. He said he feels like I'm more loyal to my family than to him. This hit me hard because I've always tried to balance both sides. But clearly it's not working. I realized that I've been avoiding conflict with my family at the expense of my marriage. The next day, I decided to take a different approach. I sat down with my husband and asked him to list out all the things that have been bothering him. We went through each issue one by one. Some of them were things I could address, like asking my family to be more inclusive in their invitations. Others were more complicated, like the way my brother interacts with him. My brother's just not a very social person, and I don't think he means to be rude, but my husband takes it personally. We also talked about the incident with my father. My husband admitted that he's still hurt by my dad's comment about moving on from his trauma. I realized that I never really addressed this properly. I promised my husband that I would talk to my dad and make it clear that his comment was hurtful and unacceptable. This was a big step for me because I've always been afraid of confronting my parents, but I knew it was necessary. Later that evening, I called my dad and explained how his comment had affected my husband. My dad was surprisingly receptive. He apologized and said he didn't realize how much it had hurt him. This was a huge relief for me, and I hoped it would help mend things between my husband and my dad. The following day, my husband and I had a heart-to-heart about our future. He admitted that he's been feeling homesick, and that part of his frustration with my family stems from missing his own. He said he's been thinking about moving back to his home country, at least for a while. This was a shock to me because I hadn't realized how unhappy he was. I asked him why he hadn't told me sooner, and he said he didn't want to pressure me into making such a big decision. This revelation made me see things in a new light. I realized that my husband's issues with my family were partly a symptom of a deeper problem. He's been feeling isolated and disconnected, and my family's behavior, even if unintentional, has amplified those feelings. I told him that I was open to the idea of moving, but we needed to think it through carefully. We agreed to take some time to weigh our options and consider what would be best for both of us. In the meantime, I've been trying to bridge the gap between my husband and my family. I've had individual conversations with each family member, explaining how their actions have been perceived and asking them to be more mindful. It's been a mixed bag of reactions. Some were understanding while others were defensive. My sister in particular was hurt that my husband didn't want her at the housewarming, but she agreed to try and make amends. I also learned some things about my husband's past that I hadn't fully understood before. He grew up in a very close-knit family where everyone was deeply involved in each other's lives. This is a stark contrast to my family, where we're more independent and less emotionally expressive. Knowing this helped me understand why he's been struggling so much. It's not just about my family's actions, it's about a fundamental difference in how we were raised and what we expect from family relationships. As we navigate these challenges, I've been reflecting on my own behavior. I realize that I've been avoiding conflict to keep the peace, but in doing so, I've been neglecting my husband's needs. I've been so focused on not upsetting my family that I haven't been fully present for him. This has been a tough pill to swallow, but it's also been a wake-up call. So where do we go from here? We're still figuring it out. We're considering a trial move to his home country to see if it helps him feel more connected and supported. In the meantime, I'm working on being more assertive with my family and making sure my husband feels heard and valued. It's not going to be easy, but I'm committed to making it work. Thanks for reading. Aita for blowing the whistle on a youth leader and causing drama. In my new church group, I am seeking other viewpoints on this small matter, really to add to my own experience and learning from interpersonal relationships. I've never been one to be part of larger friend groups, and I feel that I have limited experience with them. I'm honestly content with the handful of good friends and many acquaintances that I've made and kept over the years to now. I just joined a new church and youth group a couple of months ago, and I met a handful of girls at the youth group, ages 21, 35 right away, who I thought I had gotten along with pretty well. They've been very welcoming and friendly since I joined, and even added me to their smaller ladies group chat, 6 people including me, from day one. I keep regular communication with them in this chat, at events so far and in the weekly youth meetings. The youth leaders are also really good about posting all events and outings on the general youth group chat for everyone to participate in, if they so choose. Last weekend, the girls that added me to their chat went out to watch a baseball game together with 5 of the other girls from the group and 3 of the leaders from the youth group. They posted pictures of them from Sunday's game to our smaller ladies group chat today. I commented on how fun it looked, and if the outing had been planned out months in advance, to which one of the girls replied, "It was so last minute." I'd appreciate any insight or advice. I lack experience with larger friend groups. Now for an update, I realize now that I had initially kicking myself for this, that the outing was a prior announcement, organized by the church's young adult group directly. It turns out this was a last-minute outing planned by a member in the group, and therefore non-church related. They invited the girls from the chat since these girls are close with this member from time before. I had also assumed earlier that one of the girls I befriended had been the one to organize the outing. As a newer member, I jumped the gun thinking I had missed an announcement on this outing when it was really a personal outing. Someone organized with members they're close to from the group. Thank you for all the comments. I jumped the gun overthinking it earlier. Me being invited is irrelevant, especially when it was planned by a member that I'm not close with. Either way, not entitled to an invite within this larger group. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I really wouldn't worry about this. In a large friend group, you're not going to get invited to every single event. And the larger the group, the more likely that you're not going to be everyone's favorite. Some people prefer to do things spontaneously with others, or may feel more comfortable with certain individuals. There might have also been a limited number of tickets for the event, so there are plenty of innocent reasons why you weren't asked. It's important to note that other people were also not included, and the pictures were shared with everyone in the group, so they were not intentionally hiding or excluding you. You should only be concerned if this becomes a recurring pattern. Comment 2. It could be that the other attendees from outside the group chat, who you're not as close to, were the ones who actually organized the outing. Alternatively, even if someone in the chat did organize it, they might not have thought to include you because you're not as close with the other attendees. Who knows? Don't think too much about it, especially if they've been willing to hang out and get to know you better otherwise. In the future, avoid asking when the outing was planned because it can come across as resentful and passive-aggressive, even if your intentions are good. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. So, after realizing that the baseball game outing was a personal event organized by someone I'm not close with, I decided to focus on building stronger connections within the group. I started attending more church events and making an effort to engage in conversations with different people. One evening, after a particularly engaging youth meeting, one of the girls, let's call her Sarah, invited me to grab coffee with her and a couple of others. I was thrilled and saw it as an opportunity to get to know them better. During our coffee outing, we talked about everything from our favorite movies to our personal struggles. Sarah opened up about her recent breakup, and I shared some of my own experiences with relationships. It felt like we were really bonding, and I was hopeful that this could be the start of a deeper friendship. However, something unexpected happened that changed my perspective on everything. A few days later, I received a message from Sarah asking if I could meet her at the church. When I arrived, she looked visibly upset. She explained that she had found out some troubling information about one of the youth leaders, Mark. Apparently, Mark had been making inappropriate comments to some of the younger girls in the group. Sarah was conflicted because Mark was a well-respected leader, and she didn't know how to handle the situation. This revelation hit me hard. I had always seen the youth group as a safe and welcoming space, but now I was questioning everything. Sarah and I decided to talk to a few other girls to see if they had experienced anything similar. To our dismay, we found out that several girls had felt uncomfortable around Mark, but were too afraid to speak up. We knew we had to do something, so we decided to bring it to the attention of the church leadership. The following Sunday, we requested a private meeting with the head pastor. We were nervous, but we felt it was the right thing to do. The pastor listened to our concerns and assured us that they would investigate the matter thoroughly. He thanked us for our courage and promised to take appropriate action. In the days that followed, the church leadership conducted a series of interviews with the girls and Mark. It was a tense time for everyone, and the atmosphere at the youth meetings became noticeably strained. Some people were supportive of our decision to speak up, while others were skeptical and even defensive of Mark. It was a difficult period, but I felt a sense of responsibility to stand by the girls who had been affected. During this time, I reflected on my own experiences and realized that I had been so focused on fitting in and being accepted that I hadn't paid enough attention to the dynamics within the group. I had assumed that everyone had the same positive intentions, but this situation made me see that there were underlying issues that needed to be addressed. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Mark had indeed crossed boundaries. The church leadership decided to remove him from his position and implement new guidelines to ensure the safety and well-being of all members. It was a relief to see that our concerns were taken seriously, but it also left a lasting impact on the group. The fallout from this event was significant. Some members left the group, feeling disillusioned by the whole situation. Others, like Sarah and me, became more determined to create a supportive and safe environment. We started organizing regular check-ins and discussions about boundaries and respect. It was a challenging time, but it also brought us closer together. Looking back, I realized that this experience had changed my perspective on friendship and community. I learned that it's important to speak up when something doesn't feel right, even if it's uncomfortable. I also saw the value of building genuine connections based on trust and mutual respect. In the midst of all this, I discovered more about Sarah's background. She had grown up in a strict household where speaking out was discouraged. Her decision to confront the issue with Mark was a significant step for her, and it made me admire her strength even more. It also made me reflect on my own upbringing and how it had shaped my approach to relationships and conflict. As we continued to navigate the aftermath of the situation, I found myself becoming more involved in the group's activities. I started volunteering for different events and taking on more responsibilities. It was a way for me to contribute positively and help rebuild the trust that had been shaken. One evening, while we were preparing for a community outreach event, Sarah and I had a heart-to-heart conversation. She admitted that she had been hesitant to trust new people because of past experiences. But our friendship had helped her open up. It was a touching moment that made me realize the importance of being there for each other, especially during tough times. In the end, this whole experience taught me valuable lessons about friendship, trust, and the importance of standing up for what's right. It wasn't an easy journey, but it brought me closer to the people in the group and helped me grow as an individual. I'm grateful for the support and understanding we found in each other, and I'm hopeful for the future of our community. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.